There's a cemetery.
No, it doesn't. I not.
I mean, it's hard. But when there's capital, it's a cemetery.
Well, it's nothing to do with snow.
Wow, and we took expenses. A lot of wages came out because we're so
Yeah.
I mean,
Yes. I just got
no, it's mostly tree. Because I don't have that big.
because they called me.
Well, even be like
So that is actually.
No, but it's just like.
This meeting of the Livingston City Commission is called to order. May we have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Hoffman?
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz?
Present.
Commissioner Freeman?
Present.
Commissioner Sandberg? Commissioner Neal?
Here.
Now we will have a moment of silence. Thank you. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion on our consent items, or does anyone have a consent item they'd like to pull tonight?
I just have clarification.
Sarah?
On the minutes. Sorry. Get more. For the URA approval for the bonding, it stated that we approved 15 years, but didn't we just approve to bond, and the whole discussion was we would determine the term later once we had more information?
That was the intent of the motion, actually.
Oh, it was. Okay, thank you.
I have a motion for our consent items tonight.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I make a motion that we pass consent items A and B.
I'll second. You.
We have a motion by Friedman and a second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Holford,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman.
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg.
Four.
Commissioner Maybe.
Four.
Motion passes. Okay, tonight we have two proclamations. Our first proclamation is our Public Safety Communication Officers Week. To my page. Whereas emergencies that require immediate response from 911 centers, police, fire, and medical services could occur at any time, and whereas the prompt response of emergency equipment and personnel is critical to the protection and preservation of life and property, and whereas public safety communication officers are the first and most critical contact citizens will have with emergency services, and whereas public safety communication officers are the single vital link for police officers and firefighters in monitoring their activities by radio, providing information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety communication officers continually demonstrate compassion, understanding, and professionalism while enduring the stress of shift work and numerous emergencies. And whereas the community is fortunate to have diligent and dedicated professional public safety communication officers to provide these services. Now, therefore, I, Darrell Hoagland, Chairperson of the Livingston City Commission, do hereby proclaim April 8th through 14th, 2018, Public Safety Communication Officers Week in the city of Livingston, Montana, in honor and recognition of our public safety communication officers for their vital contribution to the safety and well-being of law enforcement officers, firefighters, EMTs, and the citizens of Park County and the city of Livingston, dated this 20th day of March, 2018. Okay. Any comment or statement by anyone? Well, we appreciate our 911 staff a lot in this community. They do tremendous work. Our second proclamation tonight is Week of the Young Child. Whereas community health partners, Child Care Connections, the Park County Health Department, Livingston Recreation Department, and other local early childhood organizations, in conjunction with the National Association for the Education of Young Children, are celebrating the National Week of the Young Child, April 15th through 22nd, 2018. And whereas these organizations are working to improve early learning opportunities, which are crucial to the growth and development of young children and to building better futures for everyone in Livingston, Montana. And whereas quality child care is directly connected to the success of our community and the ability for Livingston, Montana to be a great place to raise children. And whereas early childhood professionals and others who make a difference in the lives of young children in Livingston, Montana deserve thanks and recognition. And whereas making sure children thrive and are ready to learn is a community endeavor that involves parents, child care providers, policymakers, businesses, and community agencies. And whereas Livingston, Montana is dedicated to education and understands that early care and education is key to developing children who are more likely to finish school, attend college, and to be employed. Now therefore, I, Chairperson of the Livingston City Commission, Montana, do hereby proclaim April 15th through April 22nd, 2018 as Week of the Young Child in the city of Livingston, Montana, in the county of Park County, and encourage all citizens to work to make a good investment in early childhood development and education, dated this 3rd day of April 2018. Tonight we have 2 scheduled public comments. And tonight we are here to honor a special citizen that has given many years of service quietly to give back to our community by beautifying our parks. And her son-in-law is here to talk. Son.
In-law.
Oh,
Is this where I'm supposed to come?
yes, please.
Oh. I'm Mark Baker and Myleen's Barron's son-in-law. This is really, we're so proud of Eileen for all of the years that she's done this. This is a great example of how sometimes little efforts over a long period of time can make such a big impact on many lives. Eileen started working on the Little Triangle in Sacagawea Park. You guys all know where the Little Triangle is, where you're going down Yellowstone Street and you got to go left or right. At the age of 20, with the lady trained him, and through the years, also a local gardening club assisted for a short time early on. But through the years, with age and for whatever reason, most of the people that helped Eileen out over those years dropped out of it, and she just assumed the labor of love herself for many, many years. She spent many hours every day during the summers, watering, weeding, planting, whatever needed done in the Little Triangle of flowers. Despite having to haul hoses over there because we couldn't get sprinklers installed for whatever reason. But she finally, in 2008, had to retire from it for her own personal reasons. But since then, she still goes down and checks and makes sure that the flowers are being taken care of and does little tasks. So for 59 years, she's given an awful lot of time to that little project in the park. That's a lot of years for someone who's 39 years old. Anyway, we're just really proud of her, and we're really thankful that you guys are honoring her tonight.
This is a real big surprise because I went to the parks today and they were saying about they're honored in the paper. And I said, what are you talking about? I read the paper last night. And it just went by me. So, yeah. And it's been very rewarding. I met a lot of people would stop and thank me, donate to this and everything. But the Little Triangle is a lot bigger than what it looks, and by the time you got done, you have to start again. She helped me for 2 years, and so she can attest to that. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have something for you to honor this. And so we have a plaque from the city and from the community, from the city commission, and from the city employees. The Earth Laughs in Flowers, right? And it says Ralph Waldo Emerson, Eileen Barron, in appreciation of your many years of beautifying Livingston Sacagawea Park. The next scheduled public comment is Leslie from the Livingston Chamber of Commerce regarding requests for construction down across street and letter of support regarding amending Montana Department of Transportation and rural. Rural. Okay, I answered the whole thing. We will discuss it during action items as to voting on the issues. So that's an FYI. So this is more about you presenting, and we'll discuss it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairperson Hoagland and the Commission for seeing us tonight. I'm here representing the Livingston Area Chamber of Commerce Convention and Visitors Bureau. Tonight I have with me our President of the Board, Mark Bassett, and I have a board member, James Duncan, also representing. So tonight, I guess the first part we'll bring up is about the banners, and the banner which is upside down and backwards. We brought this up before. This particular banner, we printed 14 of them. The LBID paid for a third of the cost. The chamber paid for a third. And I came before you tonight to ask if the city could pay for a third as well. I have spoken with Matt and Shannon also in regards to the placement of the banners, as well as MDT, and all of the locations where we can and cannot put them. But we believe that in the working together with many people in the community, as well as during the planning process for the downtown project, that these are going to work for us very well over the next 4 months into driving traffic downtown to see that, again, downtown is open and so up for business. So tonight was asking about a 2/3 of the cost, which was $256.66 that I was asking that the city could help us pay for, being that we're the good old nonprofits here and we all work together. So, and that is on that note. We do have some already up. I have deposited a few with the streets department, and they're going to, I won't see them here too. Oh, they're going to also help us with some of the placements in the downtown corridor area as well. And tonight I'm also here to speak on another matter. So for quite a few years, different entities in the city of Livingston have attempted to do wayfinding signage, not only here in Livingston, but around the state of Montana. One of the most difficult things was most of our highways, byways, and interstates go through our communities. So chambers and convention and visitor bureaus, TBIDs across the state have been trying to work with MDT on getting appropriate signage. One in particular is called it's under outdoor advertising, but it's called Welcome to City signage. And these are basically, welcome to Livingston, welcome to whatever community you're in. Many of our communities at our research summits, when we are with the Office of Tourism, have been begging for them to help us, allow us to change some of these rules so that we can get our Welcome to City signs. They've finally heard and listened. On April 16th, there is going to be a hearing with MDT, and they've been getting a lot of pressure with the state in a good way to change the ARM, which is 18.6.238, and that is to allow us within a certain guideline, which is all acceptable, to be able to move forward with finally getting a Welcome to Livingston sign. I'm here tonight. We could either read through this, or I've supplied you all with particular copies, but there's a basic reason, and we don't have one, and we should have a sign that says Welcome to Livingston. There is a preliminary drawing that I submitted to Mr. Carlos a few months ago that we have been working on over time. It was just simply a great starting point. I know that there'll be a lot of folks weighing in on it, but it's something that kind of falls within their guidelines. We have the area that we would like it, which is the 8990 interchange. And all of this is moot if we don't get them to change this ARM. So we are looking to have some help from the City Commission on writing a letter that will be to them before the 13th at 5 p.m. In support of what we're trying to achieve. And then moving forward past that point, this is something that we can take funding from the CVB or our future TBID and also other donors and sponsors for our wayfinding signage. So tonight I'm asking for the approval at point later in the meeting that you can accomplish this letter for us. This is also, so you're not the only commission. Many others across the state are already busy writing their letters as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have no public hearings and no ordinance tonight. We have one resolution. We have resolution number 4787, the resolution of the City Commission of the City of Livingston, Montana, authorizing the city manager to sign a memorandum of understanding with Park County Community Foundation concerning the Park County Early Childhood Coalition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So during our strategic planning sessions, one of the values that we came up with was collaboration, and we expanded that to say collaboration not only within the city, but with agencies outside the city, whether that's the county or private organizations. This is an example of the fruits of one of those labors. It's a really great pairing between us and the Park County Community Foundation, where they have a grant, but they don't have the infrastructure to administer it or to do the personnel, so we can step into that point. So this was a really innovative idea. So I'm gonna let Lisa come up and speak to it. She did a lot of work on this, came up with the idea, and I was smart enough to let her. So.
I just want to introduce myself. My name is Carly Bergson. I'm the program director at the Park County Community Foundation. So I've been working closely with Lisa on this memorandum of understanding and have historically been overseeing the Park County Early Childhood Coalition.
Hello, everyone. The resolution that's before you is representative of the synergy that we're developing with Park County Community Foundation again. In working with these programs for early childhood education, as you know, recreation, this has been part of our mission to reach out to children, younger children, as well as children of all ages, in order to provide healthy alternatives for them, safe spaces for them. And this partnership has really blossomed out of our Wiggly Wednesday program, where we have young parents, new parents, and to do an overall cycle of learning that they do with all of our partners in this coalition: Livingston Healthcare, the Community Foundation, Community Health Partners, and am I getting the health department? And the health department, Park County Health Department as well. But we all partner together to provide safe space and resources for young parents. It has really turned into quite a program. If you're ever around at 10:30 on a Wednesday, it's fun to stop in. We have anywhere from 50 to 100 folks come in with their kids to do learning about nutrition, outreach on nursing and lactation consultation, as well as making those connections in the community for strong healthcare, educational foundations, and early childhood care for either daycare providers. And this is something that's reaching countywide. It's not just within the city. So to Mr. Carter's point, as far as forming these relationships outside of just the city, this is a program that really serves everyone within Park County and provides an avenue and network of resources for our families. Part of this MOU is for the early childhood coordinator position to become a City of Livingston employee. This employee would be resting within the recreation department and would be working collaboratively with all of these organizations, still strengthening that network of support for our young families in the community. So as part of this partnership, the position itself is grant funded. The city will contribute a portion budgetarily through benefits, as well as through the infrastructure piece of providing office space in the Civic Center, as well as space to just operate out of, and some administration of the grants, as Mr. Carter's mentioned. Any questions?
Questions from the commission? Not yet.
Thank you very much.
Mike, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I would add is if you look at our, and it is a estimate, but our estimated financial impact is about $5,000 that the city's going to contribute in either space, benefits, or just overhead and administrative positions. So for a fairly small amount of money, we get a pretty good capability that we haven't had in the past, and I think a really great place to coordinate between all the early childhood organizations in the county.
Do we have any public comments or public questions?
Yes.
Please come to the podium and say your name and address.
Guess not so.
Yes, it is. Is it the main goal to create a city employee rather than have somebody in the outside sector, as Lisa referred to, work in coordination with the city? Because it seems to me like all this grant is designed, this will be able to get another city employee. What am I missing? Thank you.
Actually, the grant isn't to the city, and it's
Well, okay, but Lisa said it's our vision basically to have this person become a city employee.
It is because that's the best use of our funds. Since the city already has the infrastructure to administer the personnel, we already have the systems in place, we already have everything to do. We can do it at a fraction of the cost that a volunteer organization should do, so it actually makes the money go farther. So that's the intent, is to take this grant and make it go absolutely the farthest we can to serve the children.
Okay. Let's just say that I beg to differ with your analysis. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have a question about how's the information put out to anyone who would want to make use of it? In other words, young parents, or that's just a curiosity question.
I don't think we've started the outreach program yet, but do you have an outline for it?
We do. This program has existed within the Park County Community Foundation for a few years. So this is really about creating and enhancing and making it more sustainable in the long run. So we do have a lot of social media outreach that we utilize with these young parents, because that's really how we reach them is through Facebook and Instagram and all of those avenues. So that's what we're already seeing in terms of what we get for attendance on weekly Wednesdays.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So it's tying into the rec department and what we're doing already.
Yes.
Which I think is the missing point that I don't think we were getting quite yet. So what we're doing already is just one aspect is the Weekly Wednesdays, as well as there's other things that the rec department does. Yes, for early childhood. Now we're just working with other people.
We're working with other people. And this also will take in the component of the literacy grant that was just received. So we've done some partnering with Todd Wester as well about bringing in some programs for early interventions for reading readiness and programs that we would have the facility to run out of the Civic Center. That's kind of forward looking in terms of where we're going to get with this newly awarded grant funding that is part of this. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? So,
would the additional estimated funding for the city come from the rec department then?
It'll be part of the rec budget.
Okay. So in essence, fees raised would go to pay for additional expenses.
Absolutely. If there's, I mean, any money the rec department earns offsets its budget. Obviously, they're an enterprise fund yet; they don't fully support themselves. But yeah,
Okay.
It would still, there's still some funding from the general fund, but any revenue they raise for a state night or anything like that will go towards their overall rec budget.
Thank you.
thank you. So do we have a motion by the commission on resolution number 4787?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 4787.
Second.
So a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoffman,
Yes?
Commissioner Schultz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sanford, Commissioner Reed,
Four.
Motion passes. Tonight, we have 5 action items. And our first one is to discuss, approve, deny planning board recommendations for amendment to parkland dedication requirements and subdivision regulations. Mr. Carnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is a new process, and you guys can give me feedback on how you like it or not. This will end up being an ordinance, but we're bringing it before you in draft form first, so that you can provide input, and then we can edit the draft ordinance and bring it back before you as a true ordinance. This was an initiative by the planning board. It basically looks at how we dedicate our parkland. There have been instances in the past where we've had accepted cash in lieu of actual land donations when developers create subdivisions. This gives us a lot more structure. They did a great job of developing this. What we did as a city, so the first part starting on page 32 is the original planning board recommendation. We took that recommendation, faithfully reformatted it, make sure that it stayed in line with some of the state code. I think we maintained all of the intent behind what they were doing. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but we just tried to make sure that that fell in the right place and that it wouldn't be able to be challenged as it came before us. So you'll see some differences, but in general, I think all of the intent survived. At least I'd like to think so. One of the big things it does is it defines fair market value for parkland that we're going to accept, and that I think is a great step forward. It requires a real estate appraiser to go out and see what it actually is worth. So, and it also puts a time limit of 6 months on that, so that even if they have an appraisal that's older than that, they'd have to get another one. So if property value has increased significantly, they can't use an old appraisal as their cash in lieu. There's quite a few other requirements as you read through it. It was based off of Bozeman's, is that correct? Missoula, I'm sorry. Missoula's, which is also included in there for you. Overall, this is, I think, a great step forward in how we look at our parkland dedication, and just formalizes some of the processes that we had before that didn't have very good guidance.
Do we have any public comment? Any board members that want to say anything? Adam or?
I think Mike did a good job of summarizing it. I'm Adam Stern, the chair of the planning board. I live at 208 South Ave. And nice job formulating the ordinance. I think you got all the main points. The only other thing I'd add is that this is specifically included in the growth policy update that you all adopted a few months ago. Specifically calls out for addressing this issue, which we had identified on the planning board before, worked through and get it through on the growth policy. And once the growth policy is adopted, now we're beginning the policy, doing policy initiatives. So, and we'll take any questions you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Adam or Mike? Sarah?
Just something that comes to mind, green space, I think, is something we all appreciate and enjoy in our community. Is it stated, because I read it last week, and so I didn't read it just currently. Is it stated that we have the option to determine which way we go, whether cash or green space? Is that the city's?
I think it is up to the city on whether to accept cash in lieu. It's a waiver.
Okay. And the question, I guess, and maybe it's not appropriate for this conversation because we're just looking at changing our code on the criteria for the land, but what is the design in our budget as we increase green space and obviously the increased costs incurred to maintain that green space and our trails, which, right now we don't have the funds to maintain what we have. So as we increase it, what's the plan for being able to maintain?
So the theory, I'll throw it out as a theory. There's two main things that is accomplished from. One would be park or green space impact fees that come in as they develop it. So that should be used for the initial development of the parkland when it's added. And then the theory is the additional property taxes from that subdivision should go into the general fund and it should be able to use for parkland development. Now, we don't currently have a formula to set that aside, so that's something that we have to do dynamically as we develop each budget. But that is the impetus. That's where the money would come from. Is as they develop the subdivision, the property taxes should increase in that way, and then we should have additional funds in the general fund to be able to use it.
And what criteria will be used moving forward with subdivisions on whether we determine to add to our green space or take a cash in lieu? Do we have that defined?
I don't think we have it written down. In general, we look at a few things. We look at what is the surrounding areas and the green space available. Is there connectivity? So does this subdivision have access already to a park area? If they have good access, then it may not be in the best interest to take the space. But in general, I think it would be a rare occasion where we take cash in lieu of. Hopefully, that's the intent. But it will depend on the space that's available, how close other green spaces are for the, because the intent is to make sure that each neighborhood has access to some type of green space. So that's the main determining factor. Do they already have access, or will they have easy access to a different park? Is it on the border of another subdivision? So that's loosely. I can't give you, I don't think we have a written policy on that. That's what it is.
I just have a question. As far as the city growth policy is, I'm kind of hazy on where we are on that. I mean, is there one in the works or?
So we did what I'd call an interim update. It was just a quick update to get one on the books that we had updated, as well as allow us to move forward with some other initiatives like trying to find the funding for the impact fee study. But really, this fiscal year, what we're looking at is we're exploring different options to fund a growth policy update, which is what has been asked for by the planning board, and I think is an appropriate thing to budget for. Unfortunately, there's not room in the general budget right now to pay for it outright, but I think there are some avenues where we can get grants to move forward in that type of stuff.
And would that be hopefully done by like the county was done, by a professional organization?
And that's why we need the grant. It's because it's going to be $40,000 to $50,000 for a professional growth policy. Thank you.
Any other questions? So tonight we are not making a decision. This is just a draft. Correct. And so it will come to us later.
So if there's any input you have on things you'd like changed, or you can give those now or between the next time you see it. If you have no significant inputs, we'll probably try and get it for you in the next meeting as the first reading.
One thing on it, when I was on the planning board before Warren took picked me on, we started the discussion on this issue, and it had to do with a subdivision, Sarah, that had offered an amount in cash, and we questioned the amount because it was based on an old appraisal. And so that started the conversation some time ago, and then we ended up doing, as an organization or as a committee, we recommended that it would be approved as the cash in, but after having them do an appraisal and then moving forward that way. So there were steps, but that was probably a year ago that the process at least was started. And I think where we're at right now is great compared to where it was. So I look forward to seeing these.
Cool. Thank you. A question on the process. So assuming we go through the action item, the first reading will be a public hearing at the next meeting on the 17th?
Correct.
And one reading or two readings?
I think this one is 2 readings. It's an ordinance. Okay. All right. And then it'll take effect 30 days after this approval on the second reading.
So second readings, first meeting in May, so beginning of June.
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So
I have a question regarding this. Is the draft form going to be available online, or do citizens of the city have to wait until it comes back in 2 weeks?
The draft's already on the website in the agenda pack.
Thank you.
Here, Jay, you can have my phone.
No, I don't want it. Thanks.
So moving on to action item B. Wait, okay.
Mike Gomez, 611 North D Street. If we get money instead of land, does that go into general fund or the park improvement fund?
It should go in the park improvement fund.
Is there a specific subtitle down there? Which is
No, I think it's in just what's the code on that one page?
If you're looking for the cash balance, it's just in there's a general cash account in there, that's where it is.
All right, thanks.
Okay, now are we ready to move on to B? I don't want to interrupt you. So next, we have a request from the Chamber of Commerce for a cost share on construction banners. Mike, do you want to update us on anything before we move on to the discussion?
The only thing I would say is Leslie did give you the figure of 256.66. As far as the budget goes, that would probably come out of outside entity support, which is only the city manager's budget. So that would be more spent in that line item. That's where we put the actual money. General fund, whatever.
Well, first, we'll open it to community. Any comments, questions? In public?
Can I make another comment to my own comment? I just forgot to tell you that today or tomorrow, there's a KBZK and KXLF it's television advertising. So we pay for the entire month. The banner is going to be running on the television advertising, letting people know in the entire market in the Southwest and Northwest region, as well as Billings to Big Timber. So not only will it be part of our events that we have going on, but the banner is also going to be up there on the bottom of the screen, which is the banner that you saw. So there's going to be a lot of coverage for it, and I'm asking a very small share to what we as CBB and Chamber have already put out there. So thank you.
So I do have a question. So you're saying that it's already been funded by which entities?
So for the television commercials, so LBID, I'm sorry, paid a third. The Chamber paid a third, plus the shipping fee, so a little bit more than a third. And that's why we were asking for a third from the city. But when it came to the television commercials and all the time putting them all up, and the Chamber and the CBB.
So a third of the businesses, which this is a business kind of request, I guess, for promoting the downtown business as well. We're in construction. So they've already contributed a third.
The LBID, correct.
Any other public comment? One?
Tricia Grabo, 204 East Callender Street. I want to just commend the Chamber for coming to this body and asking for what is not a large amount of money, but it's reflective of, should this pass, it would be reflective of the fact that the city takes into consideration the point of view of the businesses. Frequently when you do construction like this, it's just like, get the job done, where can you go? But you leave out the most important element, which is, this is how people make a living. This is whether or not their kids go to college, whether or not they get new tennis shoes. So it is just a compassionate way for the city to partner and allow for the perspective of the business people in this situation. So I just think I commend the Chamber for doing this, and I would commend this body for considering this as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? Commissioners?
I can't wait on there. The banner says the city is open, doesn't it say that? The city is open. Well, if you have been stuck on Callender Street this afternoon, it wasn't open. It was closed to through traffic. It was closed to any traffic. You tried to find a way how to get out of Dodge on there. How can I get back to I went to the bank, pulled out, and any which way I turned on there. I don't know what would have happened if maybe a fire truck would have taken it down, or a police car could have removed the barricades. But I think there needs to be some little bit of oversight as far as making it a little bit possible to escape from Dodge.
And the sign does say, our historic downtown is 100% open, correct?
Well,
Or business.
part of it. But the thing is, it's not implying that it's open to automotive traffic because we know that that's gonna be restricted. So we just want people to make sure they know they can park and walk downtown and all the businesses are open still. We know that driving down there the whole time is not gonna be possible.
Right. Yeah, during construction, it is a struggle. Commissioners, any questions or comments? Warren?
I'd just like to make a comment on that. The construction process has been known for quite some time, and you can't tear up a street without blocking it. So I think that to progress and complete the reconstruction, people should know that there's going to be traffic rerouted downtown. So I don't feel it come as a surprise to anyone at this point. Thank you.
So do we have a motion to approve the request from the Chamber of Commerce for cost share on construction vendors?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the cost share for construction matter.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Schwartz and a second by Friedman. Do you have any final comments or clarifications from the commission? Sarah?
Did we have a recommendation from the administrator? I heard where the funding would come from. Did we have a recommendation?
As far as the administration goes, it doesn't affect anything other than terms of business option. It doesn't affect our street progress or anything, so I don't have a recommendation because it doesn't affect any city administrative processes.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hoffman,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Freeman.
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg. Four. Commissioner Bailey.
Four.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is a request from the Chamber for a letter of support regarding amendment Montana Department of Transportation Administrative Rule ARM or ARM 18.6.238. Mr. Curtis, you want to?
Thanks, Doctor. The only thing I'll throw out in this one is this is already written by the Department of Transportation, so you're not asking for anything they're not already prepared to do. This is their recommendation, so you're just writing in support of their current recommendation. It meets our requirements. I think it meets the Chamber's desires. So I think it's pretty well supported across the state.
Any community comments?
Joshi Gravo, 204 East Calendar Street. Again, I'm commending the city on supporting this and endorsing these changes. I do want to say something. When I was on the board of directors for the Chamber of Commerce, we raised money for a Welcome to Livingston sign. Katie Crony was in charge of it. We had a number of beautiful trees we planted on the east side of town with a nice sign. Raised the money, put the sign there, and then when the state went ahead and built the Veterans Bridge, they took our sign down, they took our trees down, and nobody reimbursed us for anything, and nor did they put them back. And then on the triangle, as you go to Highway 10, on that side of town, we had a nice Welcome to Livingston sign. It was beginning to wear a little, but it was still a nice sign that said Welcome to Livingston. Then when we redid that triangle, MDOT redid the triangle, and there were no sign, and nobody put a sign back. And I question that. It seems like if we raise the funds for a nice Welcome to Livingston sign, seems like they ought to help us out a little bit with the replacement of that sign. Those signs were never replaced. So not only would I support this letter, but I think we ought to ask the question, where's the money for our replacement signs, for those two signs that we had? that were in existence. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Commission comments.
So the strikeouts here, I've done, the state's done that, the strikeouts and stuff, that's not something we're doing. That's the chamber's done.
That's correct. Those are the changes that they proposed. And basically,
That's what it says up here, I just want to make sure, yeah.
it's still, there are still some guidelines in there, but it allows literally to be able to put a
It's little
sign
freer, yeah.
exactly within the guidelines, which right now we can't. And specifically on the 89-90 interchange area, which.
I have a question on that.
Yes.
Oh.
So do you have a letter of support or an example of one that you could share with the city if this does pass?
Oh, absolutely. I can get you one tomorrow. Send it over to you tomorrow. I mean,
So it's helpful to see how it has been looked at or done before, you know, or done by the chamber, for example.
oh, absolutely.
Any other commission comments, concerns, questions? We have a motion by the commission on action item C.
I make a motion that we approve item C.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman and second by Schwartz. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hopman,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sanford. Four. Commissioner Levy.
Four.
Motion passes. Next on our agenda is action item D to discuss approve deny memorandum of understanding between Park County Ministerial Association and the Livingston Park County 911 Dispatch Center. Mr. Hardings.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This, from my understanding, is a historical program that the communications officers have done in the past. They partner with the Park County Ministerial Association to help them do some background checks before they hand out vouchers for some of the money that the Salvation Army of Montana has raised. So the program works that if someone is looking for a voucher, they'll come into dispatch. Dispatch will have the vouchers with them. They'll do a very quick background check on the person, which is part of the voluntary to be part of the program. If they find a problem, there's an outstanding warrant, there's an issue that doesn't meet the criteria of the program, then they won't issue them the voucher. If they pass that test, then dispatch will issue the voucher, and then that will go to, that's the extent of dispatch's involvement. It'll go back to the Ministerial Association to actually hand out the money or the food or the sleeping bags or whatever it is that the citizens require at that point. So it's just a way that dispatch has teamed with the Ministerial Association in the past as a service to the community for those that are in need.
Do you have any public questions or comments? Commission comments? Questions? Sarah?
So under the roles and responsibilities of the dispatch under 2 and 3, it sounds like we actually do provide the vouchers.
Yes, the Ministerial Association gives us the blank vouchers, and then we fill them out for the people when they come to request it.
So if they're looking for a hotel stay, we would fill it out, and that's what the individual would take to the hotel.
Yes.
Okay. And I know we've said that this program's been in existence for a long time. How does it, are there times that people can come in, or how does it work to coincide with the day-to-day business of our dispatch center, that it doesn't interfere with emergency calls type?
So actually, that's one of the reasons that they teamed with dispatch, was that it's manned 24/7 and it's always available. Obviously, anytime there's an emergency, and that's one of the additional benefits of dispatchers, they're going to have to wait at the window until our dispatchers have cleared the emergency, and then they can go back to help them. And so because there's no physical access to dispatch can continue to perform their duties, and then when they're available, they can go back and help the individual with the voucher.
Okay, yeah, I forgot we've renovated that space, so it's, they actually have a closed window, et cetera now. Right, okay. Good, okay, thank you.
Any other questions? I recall with the, when the housing apartment that was by, or used to be, I guess, by Kenyon Noble, I forgot the name of it. The main hotel, when they had the issue with the water, vouchers were given out. So I recall, so I think that was probably 3 years ago. And for some reason it did, stop for a while. I'm not sure why, but I know it was used for that situation and very effectively. Any other comments? So do we have a motion to action item D?
Yeah, I make a motion, we approve item D. I'll second.
We have a motion by Friedman, and a second by Navy. Roll call, please.
Chairperson Hubbard,
Yes?
Commissioner Schwartz,
Four.
Commissioner Friedman,
Four.
Commissioner Sandberg, or Commissioner Mayhew.
For,
Motion passes. And last discussion, or I should say action item tonight, is to review and discuss our URA background and current status. We were given an exceptional amount of
89
information.
pages.
I felt like it put a lot of the information that I wondered about in the past in a very clear way. I have really enjoyed looking through it, and I feel like I am comfortable with URA understanding, I guess, the URA in general. But where would we as commission want to go forward with this action item?
The information we were sent was basically the philosophy and framework, and I think 9 pages of ethics and procedures, which did not cover anything that's occurring now. In other words, it was a training manual or a procedure manual, and did not cover activities that are happening at this point.
Thank you.
And I'd like to, this is part of the initial urban renewal study. The one foundation comment was the area is characterized by aging infrastructure, both visual and underground. Sidewalks, curbs, gutters, and alley areas are in noticeably deteriorating condition, cracked, broken, and spalled. It did not include solar panels. It did not include many of the activities that have happened in town. And that description is extremely accurate and has been accurate since the study was done in 15 years ago or something like that. I think there have been a lot of expenditures that shouldn't have been made, and this is not to beat a dead horse. This is to make sure how things occur in the future.
Do you have any understanding or description as to the program, like the facade program, and how that became part of the URA's funding?
sure. So the information in the packet is all the official documentation that we have on URA. That's everything that exists. Most of it is pre-URA. A lot of the ordinances were made prior to the actual development of URA and were part of the state process that was required to create a TIF district and then create the URA to manage it. So those are what I'll call the historical documents or the ordinances. The actual administration of the URA is determined by their bylaws. So it's like any other board that we have. Their bylaws were developed, they were adopted, approved by the commission, and that's the articles that they operate under. So that's their guidelines and how they operate, how they find their members, how they select their officers, when they hold their meetings, notice, all the actual procedures for how they actually work. The MTA guidance covers a lot of those issues that you were referring to about what can be done. They're very specific in where the money can be spent. I'm trying to find the exact line. But there is a list of things that they can spend the money on. Those are also reflected in the urban renewal plan, which was the document that was given to them. And if you look at the front page on page 7, you can see all the people that were part of that development of the actual plan itself. That also kind of outlined their authority, some actions by the city, as well as different things that they could do under the implementation section. And then the final section is the budget alignment policy, which was made in 2011, and that just gave some of the other programs that they were using at the time, the water line replacements, the sprinkler systems, to include some of the street furniture. And that was a pretty good projection on where that could be spent. There's a list of, starting 105, there's a list of all the approved costs by the state, where the URA could spend money, to include administrative costs associated with the fund, which I don't think we've actually used that authority yet. So item 12 on that, page 105, the acquisition, construction, and improvement of facilities for reducing, preventing, abating, or eliminating pollution. And that's where some of the energy efficiency programs fell under that part of the statute. So that would be the solar program. So that is the structure that they were given to operate under.
I couldn't find anything having to do with the financial responsibility of the agency, or of any agency, even as a guideline. On page 99, we have the graph of the year-end fund balances and of the annual revenue. And it looks like in 2016, the funding was down to almost zero, if not zero. So are there any guidelines that I missed that stipulates what the financial responsibilities are? Because they're handling the tax money of everybody within the URA.
So the URA doesn't have a financial responsibility in that because they're an advisory board. They don't actually get to make any of the decisions. The commission makes all the decisions. So the financial responsibility falls back on the commission itself to maintain that fund and maintain the balances.
Thank you.
So as far as this action item, is there any request by the commission to move forward with this in another way? Because I know both of you brought it to us for the action item. Is there anything else that you feel we need to do as a commission or to discuss? Do we want to have more of a discussion in a work session? What do we need?
Well, I think we need more oversight. Some of the, it's been known for years about the CIP program, about the sidewalk payments, and about the vaults. And at this point, it was basically almost a no-brainer. You had to vote for bonding just to protect the people who are in the district and who are going to have to pay thousands of dollars for their sidewalk. I think a little more foresight someplace along the line so that the fund wasn't bled white. I mean, again, this has been known for years, and it was just run down to nothing. That decision-making, I don't understand. It's not something that popped up out of the blue. I also don't know, and I'd like an answer at some point, I don't know now. Is there any means testing as to who receives the money, and is there any other form other than an outright grant to dispense the money in order to replenish the fund?
Thank you. There's no means testing. It's not part of the program. The concept is, it is the property owners in the TIFs. So it should be used to support all the property owners in the TIFs. So it's not means tested because some of the people contribute the most to those tax dollars than would be able to use them. Because these are tax dollars that would be going to other organizations if they didn't go into the TIF. So those tax dollars would come to the city, the county, and the schools, and would then be able to be used for everyone in the city at that point. Just like we don't means test for any other tax dollars in the general fund, we wouldn't means test for these. As far as other fund disbursements other than grants, yes, the sidewalk program is half grant, half loan. So that would be half the cost of the property owners would be granted, half the cost would be financed. So the URA and the TIF district would receive those funds back as they began paying those. So there are a couple different methods.
Well, my understanding is that if that bond hadn't been passed, 100% of the sidewalks would have been paid by the property owner.
Correct.
Any other comments by the commission?
Yeah. In 6 years, this is the first year I've seen any paperwork on URA. I never saw these before. It was never really understood from a commission standpoint. All I knew was that I was told that URA got part of what was in the general fund for the city. Also, money from the school. I think it's a great time to start from ground zero and really have a fresh look and understand what the process is. Anyway, I kind of agree with you on this. But from a commission standpoint, we remember going into the thing to understand really what's all about. So I think it's a great time to sit down and have workshops or something, live down and understand exactly what's going on. Where does the money come from? What sort of things they work on? I went through that, page after page, but that's the first time I've seen it. And it's a lot of stuff. So from a commission standpoint, I think we need a fresh start. Yeah, I think the key word is oversight. I think the program itself is a great program. I don't have a bit of problem with that. It's just a question of priorities. Thank you.
And also, I'd like to add that this was created before many commissions ago. So it's one of those things that probably should be evaluated annually and looked at as new commissions come on. So that they're aware of it. I'm aware of a lot of it just because I do sit in on the board, and so I've had access to this information. Not realizing that nobody else got it either, but yeah, I there's a lot of room for, I think, improvement, at least, from the standpoint of letting people know what's going on.
Well, in that 89 pages, I believe that there is a requirement for an annual budget review and an annual report on future expenditures.
Yeah. So,
I do recall we've asked for reports and we've gotten some small, very small reports.
and they've asked
but not
for how much money they have too. That hasn't been forthcoming too in the past too. So.
right. Yeah, that was another struggle where
So it's like
they were waiting for the city at a transition time to get the information to them.
Can I make one more comment. Several years ago, there was a meeting here, and there was a representative from Butte, a URA meeting, and she described how Butte had handled the wall problem, and I believe they paid 90% of the cost. And at that time, and I don't have any documentation on this other than memory, I believe I heard the number $800,000 being in the URA funding from someone in the URA.
I remember that meeting, but I don't remember that either.
So, Sarah?
So I think, so this document, as far as the plan, has been on the city website. I mean, I've reviewed it on the website before, so this document's been there. But I think in the discussion, what we were talking about is moving forward. I mean, the URA, as we know it, is coming to a close. So what's moving forward is the bonding, which was approved. And I think what came from that then is, what do we do with the extra funding that's available after we pay our principal and interest payments? And so my concern, and I don't want to speak for Warren, but my concern is having that well-defined as to what we will spend those funds on, and not just referring back to this document from 2003, which is not, it's just a planning document. It's what was submitted to the state to allow us to design the district. It was not specifically outlining what we would or would not do without the funds, nor is that delineated in the bylaws. So yes, there is code that states what you can and cannot spend those funds on, but I think it's the responsibility of the commission to design what is acceptable to spend those funds on, or task the URA to do that, and it's something that we actually approve. So what was proposed to us by the URA was facade only. So if that's what is being proposed and the commission is saying that, what I was trying to articulate at the last meeting is then we need to adopt a document that says we will go ahead with the bonding, and any excess funds above and beyond principal and interest payments will only be used for facades, and that is it. And I'm not sure we want to do that. We need to decide what we want to do. But back to Warren's comments, you know, we still have to hold our committees accountable for what they're tasked to do and what their bylaws say. And it specifically states that they will provide a financial report to us annually listing revenues and expenditures. That doesn't mean that they walk into the finance office and ask for a printout. You know, they should be keeping track of their finances separately as well. And that's the double check, is what they have listed as their record for finances match with what the city has. And that's the checks and balances. So that hasn't been done for, I don't know, I mean, the 2 years I've been on the commission, that hasn't been done. And so when you have an entity continuing to disperse funds to building owners downtown and not understanding, I guess, I'm not sure where the confusion lies, but they still have sidewalks to pay for, which again, I'm not sure where that's documented anywhere that they were going to do that. But if that was their intent, you know, the financial oversight then was kind of lost. If they were, because at this point, we should have had enough funds to do all of the sidewalks downtown in reserves. And we wouldn't really even have to bond, because we should have that in reserves. But since the bookkeeping got lost, those funds were then given to projects downtown. So now we have to bond to pay for, in essence, what the URA was supposed to do 10 years ago. So where I'm coming from is not just approving, we're going to move forward, but we're going to move forward, and this is clearly defined, the scope, the design, what's acceptable, roles and responsibilities, and we approve that before we move forward.
So, Mike, could we plan another, since now we're at a different place as far as discussion with the URA because of the bond? Can we plan a meeting with them that would help to work through this situation?
Sounds good.
And do you have any suggestions or thoughts on what that could look like or what?
The URA is an advisory board, so whatever direction you want to give them. I mean, it could be as simple as saying, hey, you can't spend any money until we get your annual spend plan, and then you look at the annual spend plan and say, does it meet what you want? You could be as informal as that. You could be as formal as creating different bylaws. You could create a governing structure. There's a lot of options. It just depends on how you want it to look.
I know in the past they had brought to us programs. So as a commission, we would approve, for example, the facade program, which was based on, some of the information in our bylaws or in the state statutes. And then we would approve the actual program, and then they would bring the recommendations. I think that's one of the things that is confusing for people that see what's going on with the URA, is that then their recommendations are then approved by the commission. And so it is our responsibility if we approve it. It's our responsibility. But the programs were also created through them, by brainstorming and thinking. And I don't know, Quentin, if you have some feedback on that concept of where the program started and then how they move forward.
Just because, yeah.
So
I
at
came in
this,
an inherited position, basically just going along
Right.
with, what's already been established.
so at this point, if we just plan to have a meeting with the URA so that when we get to that place, which is coming up pretty quickly, and the bonding issue and how that will look, that we work with the URA to design it. Is that what we're asking for tonight? From what Sarah's saying, Warren, Mel? I guess I'm feeling that's sort of what.
To revisit the whole thing and start.
Right, and I think because, yes, they were providing us recommendations, but they shouldn't have been providing us recommendations. They should have been understanding that they needed those funds to pay for the sidewalks. So by bringing those requests over the last 6 or 8 years, which were beneficial, I'm not saying they're not, but that was not, those funds were actually already pledged for the sidewalks. So that is now why we are looking at bonding, is because the initial intent was not funded.
Does the commission approve individual projects?
They're recommended and then approved. So.
And so when they were provided to us, it was, yes, there's funding available for that. That's what we were told each time. And so, under the auspices of, oh, okay, you have the sidewalks paid for and this is in addition to. So that's why it's just so important that I think with each, if we get to the point where there are funds available, that there is a clearly defined one-page financial document that shows simple cash on hand, what's pledged, what's available, and what's the justification that this program could be funded.
On occasion, I do recall, we would get a number of, and that was usually asked by the commission, that they would say, what is the balance? What are some projects that are coming up that, just to try to get that, but you're right on the number, like a complete flow chart. No, we haven't had that. But I do recall us having basic numbers, most of them. So, well, we already had public comment, I'm sorry. Do you want to talk after? Patricia? Bring it, Howard. Well, why don't you bring it to during public comment, because we close public comment to commission comment.
I just want to comment on the $200,000 that went to the city.
Please during public comment, that would be great.
And I will,
Yes, go ahead, so.
there is, in the plan discussions of, the URA also using part of their funding to help the city with street costs. I mean, that is defined in the, overall plan and scope. It wasn't, again, that was nothing that was, delineated out in a formal agreement or formal document that probably it should have been, but it was discussed as a recommended part of the process. But anyway, to answer your question, I think it would be great to get together and just revisit, make sure we're all on the same page, moving forward.
So during a work session, you guys think, I think we could cover a couple of issues during a work session coming up. Plus we have budget soon as well. We have a couple of things. I'm trying to remember URA discussion, strategic plan here. So that will be one of our work sessions. Do we want to put them together? Have maybe a URA one with URA, a shorter one, and then a second one for strategic plan?
It should be, the URA should be separate, because that's gonna
Take some time.
That's gonna take some time.
And on that topic, and Mike mentioned this at the last meeting, I think I heard him say something about the city bonding. And what is that all about, and how is that going to coincide with this?
Well, it won't yet. That's one of the things that we need to do, to look at, is the 3-year requirement to spend the money from the URA bond.
But I thought you had mentioned something about the city doing its own bonding.
If we're gonna match that 3-year time period, then we would have to bond the same.
And what are we matching and bonding?
That we matched the 3-year time period, so it'd be for our portion of the construction, which is about 12 years.
So you're looking at bonding to do our downtown streets.
Right, so we moved the street project from a 10 to 12-year project to a 3-year project.
So we discussed this at a meeting that I missed.
No, we haven't discussed it at all.
Okay. So how, okay. Have we looked at that debt load and how that pertains to what we're, okay. So, okay, I guess that's just a discussion we need to have sooner than later then too.
We're waiting to get some good numbers from DA Davidson.
Because I'm really concerned currently with where our taxes are. And, if we're already, I mean, is it possible if we're doing bonding for the streets, would what we're already assessing people for our downtown street projects be, is that what's going to be used to pay the principal and interest so there's no additional tax increase? Or are you looking at increasing taxes with this bonding issue?
We're not currently looking at increasing taxes. Well, we can't increase taxes. Street maintenance district, we are looking at increases, but not related to bonding.
So how would we pay for the bonding?
We would pay with the same funds that we would pay for the project.
Okay, so the same street assessment that we're currently using would then go and pay for the bonding.
But it's street assessment and water funds and sewer funds, and it's
the same mechanism we're paying out of the CIP.
because we're saying currently we can pay it in cash in 12 or 13 years. So if we bonded it for 20, we certainly could pay it with the same stream of money.
So definite, in essence, be then tax neutral.
Yes.
Okay, that's just what I wanted
It may
to
actually be
clarify.
cost savings because of inflationary costs,
Sure, understood.
but we don't have all those numbers together. That's why we have money for it.
And with the current funding that we're using for the CIP, that assessment, was there a time limit put on that, or is that in perpetuity?
That's our standard street maintenance district. So it's not separate. We're just using pretty much all the funds for street maintenance going downtown.
Okay.
That's why there's not a lot of street projects anywhere else.
And how does that figure determine what's the maximum that we can assess for that?
They'll have to look at, it's the same calculus that's in the packet for the URA. They'll look at what's our our fund balance, what's our annual revenue,
No, it's for the assessment that we charge taxpayers for our regular street maintenance.
how do we figure that out? I don't think we changed that in. You know, how long it's been that? It's been, I would bet you it's been 5 to 10 years since we've had an increase in street maintenance.
Okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things we have to look at because we haven't seen an increase in a long time. And as we get more and more miles of street, obviously there's increased costs.
Okay. Thank you.
We're okay? So we're not moving forward tonight with a decision, we're just looking to the future for a plan. So next on our agenda is public comment, and I'm going to reread this because I think we don't do this enough. So during public comment, the public can speak about an item on the agenda during discussion of that item by coming up to the table or podium, signing in, and then waiting to be recognized by the chair. Individuals are reminded that public comment should be limited to items over which the City Commission has supervision, control, jurisdiction, and advisory power. That's MCAT 2-3-202. Please come up with your public comments.
I first would like to, just for a moment, address a couple items on the URA. Having attended almost every URA meeting since the organization began, having been the city representative on the URA when I was the city commissioner, having been as building owner who increased the value of her building, so have been paying into the TIF fund considerably, and also having been a person who paid for a great deal of street work. In fact, my taxes doubled on the years I was paying back for saving the vault, my vault, and a very large segment of sidewalk that was restored. Okay, so all those factors I come from, and I want to say categorically, this is in the last few years, since about 2015, that is the best URA board that we've ever had. And in fact, on a regular basis, they would ask the city, please tell us how much money is left in our fund. They would write letters. Carla would go up to talk to the city manager and specifically ask that the city finance officer come to the meeting with those figures. And at no point were they given what they ever asked for. So I wanted to be sure that the responsibility for that part of it goes directly on the administration, the city commission, and the finance officer. It does not lie with the URA board, period. Secondly, I'd like to say that on 2 different occasions within the last 2 years, the city has come and asked for $100,000 from the URA fund, not specifically saying exactly what that was for. And in fact, we're granted those 2 different $100,000 grants from the URA funding. That's the money that I pay. I have paid triple my taxes what it would have been had I not improved my building. I improved my building because of my grandmother, frankly, but I still am paying. I'm the person that's paying. I'm the building owner that's paying on this. And I would say, I would like to write a sort of a brief history of this organization so that this group has had different commissions to deal with. And at every point in the last 2 years, we have never seen that URA act independent from the city commission. They have come to the city commission, they said, what are the guidelines you want from us? Here's a project, do you or do you not approve them? And then it was up to the city commission to make that decision. And in fact, the city commission said, we'll not approve more money unless you, in fact, give us exactly the guidelines that we need. So the board went back and created those guidelines, asked for by the city commission. So I think that to be fair to this advisory board, they have come to meetings, they have been conscientious, they have worked with, they made sure that they had people on their board who were financially literate, and who have been enormously responsible for it. I still question the 2 times the city came for $100,000 of that money, frankly, as a building owner that pays into it. That's my first comment. The second one I have, I am going to ask again about the Livingston Restoration Groups. The $2 million that was supposed to have gone to mitigation of the soil. And I believe that the public is a member of the Livingston Restoration Group through our representative. So I still want to know, where is that $2 million? And so can somebody answer that question? What's happening to the money that's supposed to go to restoring the soil under the city project?
What I can answer is that we've mentioned this a number of times during commission, that we can't go to that money until the project is done, according to, and Mr. Cardews would.
Is that true in every aspect of that project?
Yes.
So
Because
nobody
until-
gets any money until the whole thing is complete.
We don't have we don't know what the cost is yet.
Right, it's not complete, so we can't ask for money that we don't know the exact amount.
My concern is that I have many of the members of the restoration group have said, since the original amount of money was $20 million, $16 million of which went to the attorneys, down to $4 million for 167 litigants, that they wanted to sit on some part of that money and have it redispersed to them, much as they did in other places in Montana. And I'm concerned that that would happen. I want to be sure that does not happen here. I'm also quickly concerned that the money for the Livingston Restoration Group is held by our newspaper editor's bank in northern Wyoming instead of in our local banks. I'm concerned about a lot of the aspects of that Livingston Restoration Group program. Thanks.
Good evening. Hi, I'm Dave Magistrelli, Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity, Yellowton Valley, 230 Arden Drive in Belgrade. Madam Chairman, City Commissioners, I have an unusual request. I'd like to have us on the agenda at your next Commissioner meeting to have a request to either waive or reduce some building fees for a lot that is being donated to us in the Discovery Vista subdivision, and also to have the impact fees waived and put on a lien on the property so that becomes paid at that point in time when the property is sold back on the market. And I know that we're not on the agenda tonight, but we did send some information out, and we'll send some more information for you to review at your next meeting if that could be possible. I'm going to excuse myself a little bit on the 17th. That is also the day of our board meeting. So our construction supervisor will be here representing Habitat and will be here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Protocol question. So would the right venue for that to go through the planning board first? Do we have a process for such requests to the planning board prior to coming to the commission?
Not in this case because it's not a planning issue, it's a fee issue.
Okay, I didn't know if that was under the purview of.
That was the building department.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
That's what I was asking. So would the request go to the planning board prior to coming to us?
Building.
Building department.
Whichever department.
Well, the planning board is Adams, and it wouldn't go there, but it already has gone to the building department. And I have a copy of it as well.
Okay. And so there's no criteria there outlining that. Just goes directly to the commission.
Sure. That we don't have a policy.
Okay.
Unless I thought there was something that was illegal or immoral about it, then I wouldn't bring it to you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jay Keeper. I'm talking about item B under scheduled public comment signage. I remember, let's say maybe 28 months ago, Janet Prescott came before this commission the city commission at the time, and came up with signage, like, she had signage that had been adopted in Lewistown, Montana, and in Great Falls, Montana, with, welcome to, or, museums ahead, or something like that. And then things sort of happened in things sort of just came to a sudden stop, and I just want to know if this is going to be revisited by the city commission there as far as his signage. I think Darrell and Quentin and Mel were all part of the commission at that time. Do you remember the Janet Prescott talking about the signage?
Are you talking about the wayfinding?
The what?
The wayfinding, so the signage that would have been on the interstate.
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on it for a while, Jay, and I know they're very picky about what we can and cannot do, so it's been brought to us, but I think we don't have a lot of control, so I haven't heard.
Well, the one thing that I'm looking at is the signage that was approved by the Montana Department of Transportation for Great Falls and Lewistown. All they were looking at is they were looking at, for the city saying, well, which template should you want to have on there? Like we say we want A or B on there, and let's go with it on there. And I just have never heard. And so when I heard about this signage tonight, I thought, this sounds like a perfect opportunity to ask you this question one more time. Thank you.
I'll start to 4 minutes in because I'm going to answer that question for you real quick. So wayfinding signage is under the CVB. So it's also part of the MDT proposition. So it's going to allow a lot of wayfinding sites through communities around the state to be able to start to move forward. Okay, so it's not dead. We do have quite a list that is currently working and going in progress for wayfinding signage around our city. Answer? Okay.
I'm just gonna address one thing. That was trying to change the city center, correct? Were you working on it, Patricia?
Yes, we negotiated with MDT and Lisa Lowry and Chamber, and we came up with a list, but it was never implemented. So they agreed to do it, they just never implemented it.
Was approved by MDT.
So there
It
were.
was approved. They agreed to do it.
There's two portions to that. So there's the highway signage, and then there's the city, within the city limits, wayfinding signage. So the highway signage, yes, but MDT has made mention that they are going to be currently working on our major corridor overlay, like before 2020, and moving forward with that, with all the highway and interstate closures and
Yeah,
stuff
that's
like
when
that.
that would change.
So the yes,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, moving forward.
Because that's what I was thinking.
That's correct. So I'm up here in front of you this evening. Over the years since 2015, the City Commission has worked with the Chamber to create the CDB and approved, and we've moved forward since then. Each year I have submitted to you the grant for the CDB for the current year. This year, at the end of the season, I come and I tell you how it went. And this year I'm getting ready to write the new grant for actually FY19, believe it or not. And then it's going to be due May 7th, so I'll be getting it on public comment agenda on, I believe, May 1st would be the next meeting. Okay, and this last year we had over $41,500 for 18 that was spent very well. I don't know if you, I'm sure you have noticed, I shouldn't say that, between 3% and 22% increase in the local businesses here. Our bed tax dollars have increased through the hotels, which was over 5% of last year. Each year we have grown. So the business of the CDB and the grant is working extremely well. And for simple facts like this year with the state, the expenditure was over $3.4 billion
in visitors, non-resident visitors for the state of Montana. And here in Livingston, we did, again, 5% over last year, which was very well. So I just kind of wanted to touch base with a few of those items that we have created through tourism, just here in our community alone for new businesses. We have tour businesses, we have new rafting businesses, we have river guide businesses. Coach USA is now going to be our source for employees traveling back and forth between Gardner and Livingston. And that's going to be starting hopefully near the end of the month. As you know, it was already working as our snow coach, and it did very well for its first year. But moving forward, we are extremely excited that they're going to be our transportation mechanism between here and Gardner. And Gardner's super excited. You know, this is a win-win for our communities moving forward. So I just wanted to touch base with you again on the fact that I do not need to, after we were already approved to be a CVB, bring this forward to you every year. But I appreciate all of you and your input, which is why I send you emails when we have a new editorial piece or where we're taking it and making the comments that you do on the pieces moving forward. And so when I get ready for the new grant, it's not that you need to pass a motion for approval, but it's simply that if you have comments, that leaves me 4 days that I can make any changes that you might see fit for advertising your community to the non-resident travelers around the nation. And now that we went international for the first time international. And on that note, the final note is that, by the way, real quick in 44 seconds, we sent over 17,122 online vacation requests this last year alone. So that's how it's grown between, we used to do around 8,000, 17,000, pretty big. We have our first international tour bus company coming here on a FAM tour this next Saturday. And that is 10 international tour bus companies, of which you guys approved to put those public bathrooms in, all that money and stuff. So this tour bus is coming to drop these folks off this Saturday, and I get them for an hour and a half to show them our community and why they should bring the tour buses coming here. I'm still having trouble finding parking, but Matt and I are going to work that out. So I just wanted to let you guys know moving forward, everything you guys approved, we're doing the right thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Okay, city manager comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I have for you this evening is recommendation. I've been working through the procedural order of the meeting. One of the things I did get a public request for, and actually more than one, was to move the public comments to the beginning of the meeting, similar to how the county does it, similar to how most other organizations do it. A lot of people find it hard to stay for the entire meeting if they have work or if they have kids or whatever. They would like the ability to come and speak to you and then be able to depart for the rest of the meeting. So we can test that out if you'd like. We can start that in the next agenda. Move it up there, see how it works, see how you like it. So to give the people the ability to come and speak to you without having to sit through the entire meeting.
I got
You are special.
Is it possible to put a time frame on that?
We certainly can put like a 15-minute time limit, a 3-minute. It's all whatever you want. We can put.
Because I would. I think it would be good to have some sort of time limit set because we want to get our business done as well. And so, turn into an hour of public comment before we even start discussing our agenda. So.
At this time, we're doing the 4 minute. Would we just continue with the 4 minute public comment per issue or per?
Yeah, well, definitely per issue, but I didn't know too. Set 30 minutes max or something like that, or 20 minutes max. I don't know.
In general.
For all comments.
Should we try it and then?
Yeah.
Age.
Try it.
So right now, you need, say you put 20 minutes on the, you would need 5 people speaking the full 4 minutes. We don't usually do that.
But we might.
We may have.
So.
It's possible. we hope people will be excited. Come speak to you.
Well, I think our public comment statement that I read by chance tonight, states clearly that expectation that we are to address the item that's on the agenda as we're addressing it as we should as well, you know, and then during public comment, having that time, but, I think we already have it pretty clearly stated here. We just now are switching it as to keeping it on track and keeping agenda items on track as well with public comment.
One of the other things, I was talking to the local government center this week, one of the other things they said is a lot of times you can avoid problems that way if there's an agenda item that people speak to, and everyone speaks to it, and then some people leave, but if someone stays and speaks again to the same agenda item in the public comments, they're getting additional time that isn't afforded to other people. So it's easier sometimes to have a public comment up front, so they can't speak about agenda items, and then all the agenda item conversation is with that agenda item. So it's easier for the public to make sure that they get all of the information associated with that agenda item, that it isn't dispersed into the public comments there.
But it also helps us to get the information from them.
Yes.
You know, so we're hearing their opinions and feedback on one item at a time. Right. Nothing else? So you're going to put that in?
There was one more thing. I'll put that in the next agenda if that's okay. That's acceptable. The only other thing is I did talk to the local government center. They are exceptionally booked, but he does have room on the 16th of May. If that is acceptable to you, we can do our strategic planning goals definition session on the 16th of May. If that doesn't work, we'll have to go into June. They're down. They're down. Next word.
It's. Give me time.
What time would you like to set that for? I'm hoping that's an hour to an hour and a half process. You guys have already made the goals, so it's just defining the goals at this point. 5:30? I'll schedule it 5:30 to 7:30 on the 16th, and hopefully we won't use that time. We want to make sure to notice that.
It works for everyone? That seems to be kind of a time that's been working. Between 5:30 and 6. So we're done. Commissioner comments. Sorry. Anything?
No, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Which is which way?
Sarah?
I know we've got a lot coming up. We have work sessions that we're talking about doing, strategic planning, budget. Can we get a timeline for those of us that have to plan a little bit in advance for what's on the docket?
More than a month out.
So as far as the URA work session, it's really up to you guys whenever you want to schedule that.
Right, but then we have, I know we're gonna have multiple budget.
The budget, the staff, we're doing an offsite on the 11th of April, and hopefully by the end of that day, we'll have the budget developed, at least the options for the budget. Then it'll take a week or two to format it, so it's easily readable. And then, so we should be ready last week of April, first week in May, for at least the general fund, just to have you go through it with development. It should be a pretty, unlike last year, I'm hoping to present your budget options, i.e. this is what you get for this amount. If we cut this position, this is what you get. So that you don't have to actually come up with the cuts during the commission session. We already have options laid out for you.
But do you anticipate, 2-3 meetings? I mean, I'm
hoping it really won't be
2. So, yeah, so just, since we have 2 meetings in May already, strategic session, we need a work session with the RA. What else were we discussing?
Well, the
You
URA,
mentioned-
that higher right now? Is it, I mean, just because it's kind of in limbo, there's no money to be spent allocated for otherwise for quite some time, so.
I think you have to determine the time frame. I mean, even though.
Oh, no, we want to do it, but we could do it in June, I think, you know.
Yeah.
Unless you want to put it in May, I don't care.
There seemed to be an urgency that we approved through a bonding. So I'm trying to understand what the urgency was then. But anyway, I'm just.
Well, I just, you know, thought about going over and redesigning the whole URA thing. That's all.
Anyway, just, it gets busy and May will be here tomorrow, so good to just kind of have somewhat of a design schedule. If people take off for vacation or anything like that, so.
I will clarify, 2 meetings for the general fund, we'll probably need 1 more for the rest of the fund.
Right. So.
Just one thing, coming up April 28th, the breakfast with commissioners. Didn't we mention inviting Carter County commissioners as well?
We did. I don't know if they've been invited.
Well, do we want to?
Yes, I think that was the intent.
Yeah, I'll extend that.
Okay, you were.
Go home. That's, yeah.
I think
That's all I have. Yeah, okay.
I actually don't have anything to make. So this meeting of the Livingston Commission, I need, wait, I'm forgetting my steps. Let me go back. I need a motion by the commission.
I move we adjourn.
To adjourn.
Aye. Second.
Motion, do I have to say who during this? I didn't think so. I forgot. We have a motion to adjourn, and a second.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? This meeting of the Livingston City Commission ends at 8:20.
Thank you. Say that again.